Welcome to the Innovator's English Classroom. I'm Dustin Mattison, and today I want to introduce a framework I've built for navigating a world increasingly shaped by artificial language. It's called From Echo to Voice, Becoming Sovereign in the Age of Simulation. It's rooted in one central truth, that language is more than output. It's a way of being. I was inspired to create this podcast after reading Terry Underwood's Substack post titled Printed Words, Coins in the Devil's Purse. In that piece, Terry explores the philosophical challenges posed by artificial intelligence-generated text, and he draws a parallel to the historical suspicion of written language held by Plato and Nietzsche. Let's start with the center, from echo to voice. At the center of this framework is a philosophical warning from Plato and Nietzsche. Plato feared that written language, detached from dialogue, would create the illusion of wisdom. Nietzsche feared that metaphors would decay over time into empty symbols. And here, in the age of AI, we see both risks realized. Simulated language that sounds fluent but feels hollow. Language without origin, without soul. But we also see the opportunity for both risks to be avoided through a new framework for engaging artificial language outputs. That's why I tell my students, don't become an echo, become a voice. This framework helps them do just that by developing intention, voice, authenticity, emotional texture, and ultimately, intellectual sovereignty. Let's move forward and outward from the center and explore how. Prompt engineering. Carving a key for an unknown lock. Plato said that fixed text couldn't answer back. Prompts are our way of asking the text to respond. In my classroom, we treat prompt writing as an art form. When a student writes, "Tell me about the Civil War," the AI gives a textbook recap. But when they say, "Explain the emotional cost of the Civil War from the perspective of a union nurse," now everything changes. They learn that language shapes response. Intention means knowing what you want your words to do and shaping them accordingly. That intention is precision, and that crafting a prompt is like carving a key, not for the right answer, but for the right kind of thinking. Critically read AI. Reading a mirror that reflects nothing back. Nietzsche warned that words lose force when they fail to carry intention. Students read AI-generated summaries and begin to notice it's all surface. The Renaissance was important because it changed art. But how? Why? For whom? They start to see that AI reflects patterns, not presence. Intellectual sovereignty means that students don't just read, they resist. They question assumptions, analyze structure, and reclaim the right to decide what's meaningful. Reading AI becomes a way to practice suspicion, to question what seems fluent but isn't grounded. It's a mirror that doesn't reflect them, and that realization sparks real metacognition. Create with AI. Co-writing with a ghostwriter who never lived. AI simulates, but it cannot feel. We must reclaim authorship and creative identity. One student generated a draft of a personal narrative using AI. It was clean, well-structured, and emotionally empty. She rewrote a line, "Grief settled on my chest like wet wool." That was hers. That was authenticity, voice. It's not about rejecting AI. It's about knowing when to step in and make it real. Knowledge creation. building a lighthouse in a fog of illusion. Nietzsche and Plato both challenged inherited truths. Students must construct their own clarity. AI might say, the New Deal improved the economy. But a student digs deeper. Who did it help? Who did it leave out? They start to challenge simplifications. They're not just absorbing information, they're constructing meaning. They become lighthouse builders, guiding others through the fog of oversimplified narratives. Decide what to trust. Sifting for gold in fool's glitter. AI dazzles with fluency, but we must verify and weigh. The AI says, the Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery, but one student checks the facts. No, it applied only to Confederate states. That's epistemological responsibility, knowing that truth isn't always in the first draft. They're not passive consumers. They're curators of meaning, sifting glitter from gold. Reflect on process. Keeping a map of a maze that changes as you walk it. Nietzsche called language an illusion. Reflection helps us catch it in motion. We journal after every AI interaction. One student wrote, the AI sounded smart, but I realized it left out the counter-argument. I had to add it myself. That's metacognition. Not just what they learned, but how they learned to notice their own noticing. That's where growth lives. Compare human versus AI. Comparing a painting to a photo of a painting. Nietzsche warned that language becomes flattened over time. Students must seek depth. We compare student writing to AI writing. The same prompt. One is precise, the other poetic. One says, the character felt grief. The other says, the hallway held its breath. Students begin to see and feel the difference between replication and resonance, between data and depth. That's emotional texture, and it's irreplaceable. Outcomes. Growing readers with X-ray vision. Language isn't just form, it's power. Students must become anatomists of meaning. By the end of the unit, they don't just write better. They read the world differently. They ask, who wrote this? For what purpose? Where's the bias? They don't just decode, they dissect. They don't just analyze, they author. This is what it means to teach in the age of simulation, to help students become sovereign, not just in what they say, but in how they think. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to bring this framework into your classroom, connect with me on LinkedIn, visit my Substack, or if you're in China, see my Red Note. And remember, in a world of echoes, help your students become the voice.